Welcome back to another episode of The Real Deal with Empire. I am your host, Ali Fawaz, and this is the podcast where we don't just talk about transactions, we talk about transformation. And today's topic is really unique. In fact, if you are a property owner, you want to be paying attention today because whether you know it or not, you might be overpaying on your property taxes. And there's ways to get that lowered. In fact, if you own property, you probably just accept your tax bill as it is. But what if I told you that there's ways to get it lowered and find out if you are actually paying too much? Well, today's guest, he's here to actually break it all down for us. Sam Miller of Prop Tax America. He's the guy that you want to talk to if you want to lower those property taxes, especially if you don't want to deal with it yourself, because it comes with a whole lot of headaches. And he and his team handle the entire process. Then the best part is you don't pay unless you win. Sounds too good to be true? Well, stick around. We're going to find out. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here. This is a topic that I think should be of interest to anybody who owns property, obviously, right?
Right.
But let's start with some of the basics, right? How do property taxes even work, right? Like what determines how much a property owner pays, whether it's commercial or residential?
When a property is first built, they come up with a cost analysis of what this property cost you to build. So fast forward, now you're living in a home. I'm just going to use homes as an example. As time goes on, your home, my home, the city is only allowed to raise your property tax at the rate of inflation, or 5%, whichever is lowest every year. Mm-hmm. So everybody looks at their property tax assessment when it comes out. Most people just complain, moan,
true story,
and end up paying.
And they pay it.
I had once seen a report one time that something like 96% of the people don't even bother appealing their property tax. They just accept it and move on.
That's like percentage.
That's pretty much how it goes. And then what I do is I review the assessments when they come out and determine if they're overassessed or not based on the current market value of that particular property.
Okay. So most people don't even question the property taxes, right? But how common is it that homeowners are actually overpaying?
Depends on the market. Recently, what we're seeing in the last, say, 5, 6, 8 years, the housing market here in Michigan has gone up. So those generally are fairly assessed for the most part.
Okay.
It's when uncapping, and that's a different topic we'll get into in a little bit, is when that happens, that's when I usually see most of the problems or newer construction.
Newer construction tends to be a problem point.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because they're costing it out and it comes up with a new value every year.
Okay.
So, you're building a house and most people think they're paying tax when the house is done. That's not accurate at all. Mm. You're paying tax every December 31st is considered tax day. So whatever the city, in this case, I won't use names, but we could eliminate that.
We'll leave that.
Every year, December 31st, the city determines what your house is worth. And that's what the value they place on it. So you have two values that come on the assessment notice. One is your state equalized value, which is what the city determines that general area has gone up or down. The other is your taxable value. That's what we all pay taxes on. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, the taxable value could only go up based on the rate of inflation.
Got it. So if somebody's property tax is overassessed, what options do they have?
Well,
is the appeal actually worth it?
Sometimes it is, but it doesn't hurt to at least find out.
Yeah.
So what most of my clients generally do is they get their notices in mail, usually early March. It'll say, this is not a tax bill.
Right.
Many of my clients, all they do is take a photo of it, text it over to me, and ask me what's my thoughts, if I believe it's too high. And if I'll just do a quick review because I kind of know what most of the market is.
I assume you've probably seen it all.
I do. And most people don't really understand how to read these forms. So they could be complicated sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, especially when they see a big number that it went up $5,000, $10,000, or whatever. It's really not dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. It's significant. So your company, Prop Tax America, makes appealing property taxes super easy, I'm assuming, right?
We try to.
Okay.
We try to. I believe we do.
Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, generally when somebody gives us the assessment notice, we review it, in which we feel it's warranted to try to lower it. We go to what we have is a board of review. Okay. Every township city has a board of review, which is required by law. Board of review consists of 3 residents of that city, not the assessing department.
Okay, residents.
Residents.
That makes sense.
So what they're doing is acting on behalf of they're the independent jury, so to speak, between myself and the assessor. The assessor come up with a number. I think it's wrong. The board of review makes the decision.
Okay, that's understood.
So once that process is over, and this is just for residential properties.
Just residential.
Commercial properties, we can do that.
Yeah.
But in most cases, I just go straight to the Michigan Tax Tribunal.
Okay, so Michigan Tax Tribunal handles the commercial side.
They handle both sides, but just by law, your residential properties must go to the board of review first.
Gotcha. And how long does the appeal process typically take?
It could range from, 2 days if they make the decision right then and there, or a couple of years, actually.
Oh, it could go that long.
It depends, yes.
It does tend to be longer on the commercial side?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. Especially in the tribunal, we have 2 different courts. One, which is they call small claims, which is a valuation of $100,000 or less that we're fighting for.
Yeah.
Or the entire tribunal, which you can fight for as much as you really believe the property's worth. That's generally those larger, commercial properties that are out there is fighting for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
Okay. Speaking of millions of dollars, let's talk about those results. Like, what is the biggest tax reduction that you ever helped somebody, one of your clients actually secure?
God, I've been doing this so long, I don't recall, but I would say
ballpark.
Yeah, many thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Close to 6 figures.
Okay. That's good to know. That's significant.
Yeah.
Now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show. We call this Real or Ridiculous.
Okay.
So essentially, I'm going to shoot out some scenarios. Mm-hmm. They could sound ridiculous or preposterous, and some of them could sound like they're legit. Mm-hmm. You, as the expert, are going to tell us whether it's plausible or no, that's just silly. Sound good?
Fire away.
All right. So if I buy a house in cash, I don't have to pay the property taxes.
Why not?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
So am I answering ridiculous or what was the other one?
Real or ridiculous?
Real or ridiculous? Ridiculous.
Okay. Obviously, if you're paying cash, you still have to pay the taxes.
Sure.
If my neighbor wins an appeal and gets their taxes lowered, mine automatically go down with my neighbor?
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. All right. Third one. The city purposely overassesses homes because they know most people won't appeal them.
I will disagree with that. It's not a real or ridiculous answer. I don't think they do it on purpose.
Okay. It's just oversight.
Absolutely. You've got to understand that most communities have 2, 3, 4, 5 people working in an office and they're trying to handle 30, 40 parcels.
Yeah. It's quite a bit. So they get overwhelmed.
And, they're humans.
Yeah.
That's why we have the Board of Review. That's why we have the Michigan Tax Tribunal.
So you're saying give them the benefit of the doubt.
I do.
Okay. Here's my second from last one. You can appeal your property taxes on your own without an expert like you.
Absolutely.
Would you advise it?
It depends on how much someone knows, because you got to go with facts.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand what facts they need to reduce their taxes. Some will go to the Board of Review or the tribunal and say, my neighbor pays X. That's not a winnable case.
Mm-hmm.
I used to pay a lot lower last year. That's not a winnable case. Yeah. Bottom line is you got to prove what is the value of that property as of December 31st. Almost nothing else matters.
And that's where you come into play, because you know where to find the facts and what facts to present.
We try to, yes.
Got it. You're very humble, by the way. Lowering your property taxes can make it harder to sell your home later.
Not true at all. Not true at all.
All right. Fair enough. Those are not that bad. Real or ridiculous. So shift gears with me for a moment. Let's talk about millages.
Okay.
What are they and how do they work?
Every city has a millage. Millage is basically a tax, and that's the amount of dollars you pay on per $1,000 of your taxable value.
Yep.
So, certain communities are higher than lower. It's basically how do they run the city? The kind of monies they need to generate to run the township, city, whatever it may be.
Okay, so that's where the millage comes
So
in.
a lot of people will say, "Hey, I can move out to so and so, and their taxes are much less." Well, their millage may be less.
Okay, so the millage is usually what ends up being a big factor in how high their taxes are.
Absolutely, that and the value of the property. Yes.
And the value of the property.
Yes.
Because I know recently in Dearborn Heights, I think they had tried to pass a millage. I think they may have actually passed the millage.
It's going to be a problem.
That one's going to be a problem.
I've warned them. It's going to be a problem.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, they passed a 5+ millage this past I think it was September, October, and it's for the school board and so on.
Okay, yeah.
Which is good. We need to improve the schools. Problem is, people aren't going to really realize until they get their July tax bill how much it's going to really cost them.
So you're saying it's going to be a significant uptick?
I'm estimating for someone whose taxable value is about $100,000.
Yeah.
That's roughly a $650 jump from previous year.
Okay.
So I have clients with nice homes and so on.
Yeah.
I'm going to see a tax bill that's going to go up $3,000, $4,000, $5,000
And that'll probably be next year.
this year.
Oh, that'll be this year.
Yeah, this July when the notices come out, that phone won't stop ringing because they're going to say, "What the heck's going on?"
Yeah.
They just don't understand that a higher millage is going to mean higher taxes.
Gotcha. And in that scenario, there's not much you'll be able to do for them?
No, because it was voted on by the residents of the city.
Okay.
Most don't know it. Most don't vote.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to understand these things.
I'm sorry, but it only hits them when the actual tax bill comes out.
Then the reality hits.
Exactly.
Gotcha. What about uncapping a property? How does that work? What is it?
Uncapping is probably one of the biggest things I see every year. Basically, what it means is when you purchase a property, we're going to call it a house in this case, there's a taxable value and there's a state equalized value. Once you purchase this property, the city will uncap that taxable value. They no longer have to follow the rate of inflation increase. So now that taxable value for the following year will be based on what the current market value is. So a taxable value in your case, let's assume your taxable value is $100,000. I don't know what it is. And you sell your home for $400,000. That 100 is out the window, and your taxable value can generally jump, maybe double.
Yeah.
Based on the current market, because it usually tells me that prior person has been living in that home for quite a while because it's limited as far as how much that tax rate can go up.
Gotcha. How would somebody know if they're on a property that's uncapped?
Most people work with realtors, I would assume.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one problem we have in the industry is that either realtors don't understand how this uncapping works or they're unwilling to educate the potential buyer of what their new tax is going to be. Either case, I think, is wrong. I see this the number one problem every year. People just can't afford the jump. And I think it's a crime that the realtor doesn't advise the buyer about what these potential taxes could be. I think that should be part of the closing package, if you ask me. Now, there's no guarantee of what the number is.
Yeah.
But we can estimate. Yeah,
at least there's a way to be able to estimate it if you're aware that there's a uncapping situation
I just tell people, take your purchase price, and in this case, we'll use $200,000 as an example, and you can assume your taxable value is going to be half of that, which is $100,000.
Right.
You multiply that by the millage rate. I think you're using Dearborn Heights earlier.
Yeah.
I know that the Dearborn Heights millage rate is going to be like 52-ish. So I know that's going to be $5,200 in taxes for the year. and then can I afford it or not?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a simple question that they can answer. The second problem too is the mortgage people.
Okay.
The mortgage people, the good ones, should know how this works too. And they base, when they qualify for someone, they base it on the current taxes.
Right.
Well, it's really an irrelevant number.
It's going to change.
It's going to change. And if that's part of your mortgage, I see this all the time. Either they get a tax bill, notice from their mortgage company at the end of the year. Oh, by the way, you still owe us $2,000, $3,000, whatever this number may be.
Can they prepare it in preparation for what it's going to be, or there's no way of knowing what's going to, assuming there's a way for them to calculate to figure out what the change is going to be, or at least get a roundabout estimate?
Well, yes, it can. But I think many of them either are uneducated in how it works, or unwilling to do it because they may lose that sale.
So there's an education problem in the industry, whether it's on the real estate side or even on the lending side.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. And we hear and see this every year multiple times.
Where can somebody go to learn more? What should they be doing? How can they get the knowledge that you have? Like, are there events they can go to learn about this? Is there something that they're missing?
Not to my knowledge. To be honest with you, I deal with most realtors in town. Most of them know me.
Yeah.
And all day long, I may get a text, "Hey, Sam, my client is going to buy so-and-so property. What do you project the taxes to be?" And I think that's how it should be. I tell them what the taxes are going to be estimated at, and I believe then they can make a business decision on whether they want to continue with the purchase or not.
Yeah.
I think surprises are terrible.
Yeah. Nobody likes those kind of surprises.
This is the largest investment they'll ever make.
Right. It's an emotional decision.
And what I see, to you and me, maybe $50 isn't a lot of money. But to a lot of people, $50 is like $1 million. And I just really feel terrible when they walk in and my hands are tied, I can't do nothing, and they're at risk of losing their home.
Oh. Yeah, that is.
And these are real stories. These happen.
Yeah, and really, genuinely, if you want to be a good advocate, a good partner to your client, if you're a real estate agent or if you're a lender, you probably should do your homework, take the time to understand this, and educate your clients on what they can expect the taxes to be.
And at the very least, if your lender or your agent doesn't know, call the assessing department of whatever city you're dealing with and tell them, I'm about to buy X property for this amount. What can you tell me my estimated taxes will be? And let them then make that decision. Perfect. I think it's fair.
That's a great way to go about it then, just to be sure. So let's say you were in a position where you can control the system.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do? How would you correct the system?
Well, one thing I would do is I'd make that part of the closing package. On every property that's sold, I would have a separate sheet of paper that this is your estimated taxes going forward.
Mm.
So people know what that is. Now, it's not an exact science, but it's not going to be, the shock factor won't be there, when you actually see the tax bill coming in. So what's going to happen is many, many people in March got their notice of assessment.
Yep.
Most of them don't understand what it means. Most of them will trash it.
That's true.
The only time they really wake up is in July where they actually get the tax bill.
Okay.
And that's when they say, oh my God, what's going on?
And at that point, for some, it might be too late.
It is too late.
Yeah.
And I advise them we have to wait till next year, or if your taxes were good anyways.
Right.
And I have to educate them how the process works. It's satisfying to help people.
Yeah.
But it's really heartbreaking when you see someone at risk of losing their home.
Yep. Something we didn't cover is homestead.
Homestead's great, sure.
Is that something that you see impacting a lot of people? Is that something that people end up just leaving on their bill? Does the municipality have a responsibility on their own to realize that it's not a rental property anymore? Like, how does that come into play?
Well, it's funny you mention that because just yesterday I was at a board review, and some clients walked in, not my clients, but homeowners of wherever it was, walked in, they were arguing about not getting a homestead. Then I guess they had not received a homestead for the past dozen years. They just didn't know what that meant. And it would have been great. And, the assessor and the board of reviews told them, why didn't your realtor advise you of this? And they went back and forth, back and forth. So what people could understand is a homestead is a property, a home. Let me just rephrase that.
Yeah.
It's a home, not a commercial property or rental property. It's your primary residence.
Okay.
So in order to qualify for a homestead, you must be an owner, occupant, period. And that means you must be on the deed.
Okay.
So,
and that's homestead. And
yes. And what does that mean?
And if you could tell the listeners or the viewers, what does it actually mean? Why does somebody need to pay attention to this if they are a homeowner living in that property?
Because you're exempt from additional millage rate. And in most communities, it's 18 mills.
Yep.
So I'll pick a number and I'll just say, if this city is 50 mills, now homestead is going to be 68.
Okay.
So it's considerable money that a homeowner may erroneously be paying that they should not have.
Is there a way for them to recoup those if they've been paying it because perhaps maybe they purchased a house that used to be a rental property, and then they've been living in that house for 4 years, 5 years?
Sure.
Can they recoup the additional monies that they've been paying in property taxes, but they shouldn't have been paying that?
The law states we can go back 3 years plus the current year.
Okay. So there's options there.
That's correct.
I did not know that.
But only 3 years. Unfortunately for the people I was just referring to, it was more than 3 years. And that's where the argument, came into being.
As to did your
but the
real
city's
estate
hands are tied.
agent advise you?
The board is tied.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to happen from here out. There's what's the recourse? I don't know.
Gotcha. Anything else? Anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to make sure we cover off for our listeners, for our viewers?
First thing I would do before I buy any property is I would get the evidence of the facts. Okay. What's the millage rate? How the schools, what are the schools like? What are my taxes going to be?
Yeah. Those
things are, to me, very, very important. I don't like surprises when it comes to dealing with your livelihood.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Those are the things, and be careful of what agent you select. I see a lot of my clients referring to their agents as one and done because they don't advise them correctly, and they're never going back to that agent.
True.
So the good ones, they'll risk losing that sale to help you in the long term.
Well, yeah, the good ones tend to be the ones who are actually the subject matter experts. They are the advisors. They are the consultants. They are all these things wrapped up in one, and that's really how you have that return business, right? You're building a rapport with your clients. So
I do, like I said earlier, I've done well over 3,000 of these appeals, and I'm not a guy who markets myself. Everything has come from word of mouth, hopefully because we've been successful. We are successful, a high percentage, but I also turn down a lot because they are properly assessed.
Okay.
So right now in this marketplace, I would say at least 90% of people who call in or whatever are good. Tell them they're good. So, but at least it's a sense of satisfaction for them that they know they're not.
Yeah, it kind of clears their conscience or their mind, knowing that I'm paying what's fair.
That's the main thing. That's our goal, and the goal with most assessors that I deal with too is to make this right. We're not trying to gouge anybody on either side.
Yep.
We try to make correct an error. That's the bottom line. A good assessor will do that.
I like that. Let's see. Final thoughts, Sam. If somebody is listening right now and thinking, "Man, I probably overpaid," what's the best first step for them to take?
Look at your assessment.
Okay.
That's what I advise everybody to do. Look at your assessment, but the main number that you're looking for is the current year's taxable value. That's really the only thing that matters. So what I advise my potential clients to do is look at that taxable value, multiply it by 2, and ask yourself, is my house, my building worth this amount? If that's a ridiculous number, they call me. If they say, well, this is great for me, it's something that should not be appealed. If they're uncertain, they call me.
Gotcha. Okay. And is there a deadline for filing an appeal? When should a homeowner be reaching out to you?
Most homeowners, every community is different, but most homeowners get their notice of assessment early March, late February, early March. And on the form, it usually gives them 2.5, 3 weeks, something like that, to file an appeal with the Board of Review. If you miss that deadline, you must wait another year.
Okay. So that's an important date to know.
Absolutely.
So we've missed that date now for the homeowners.
That's correct.
What about on the commercial side?
Commercial side, May 31st.
Okay. So they've got some time yet remaining on commercial.
Correct.
To appeal and make that change and potentially contact you if they're looking for something out there.
Sure.
And Sam, this has genuinely been eye-opening for me, and I'm going to assume that for most of our listeners or viewers out there. And if you own a home in Michigan and you haven't checked if you're overpaying on your taxes, on your property taxes, you need to call Prop Tax America. How can they get a hold of you? How should they reach out to you?
Call me direct.
Okay.
Most people call me direct.
Can we put your contact info out there?
Sure. My phone number is 313-377-1447. And I will walk them through the process the best I can. Okay. And one thing is very important. I back what I do. I don't charge anybody a dime until we actually win the case. And then it's a percentage. So they got really no skin in the game almost all the time.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, I know usually what a winner is just by reviewing their current assessment.
So essentially, it can't hurt you guys to reach out to find out. Worst case scenario, you're going to learn that, hey, you're assessed properly. But essentially, you guys have heard it here. Again, I want to thank you for being on the show with us today. That's a wrap for this episode of The Real Deal with Empire. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please make sure to leave a review and follow us on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and on Spotify. Until next time, take care.